want to show you how to create that. This BTS breakdown has been brought to you by Newman Productions. Please visit our website at newmanprods.com. Check out some of our later work that we produced, shot, and edited. This is BTS for the Carmex commercial, like Carmex for your lips, so they won't be dry. So I know I wanted to set up the hero shot first. So what I did was I placed my softbox around the entire, set, and I shined it on the yellow backdrop that I kind of taped on to the back to make it look like an infinity yellow backdrop, so that you wouldn't see where the paper ended and started at. I tried to make it look pretty. At first, I thought I just wanted just the Carmex bottles, but I thought that they looked better if I added the actual things that I bought to the set.
Also, I paid $21 for all this stuff, so I'm going to use every single thing in almost every single shot. Is it cheap? No, just called using your resources. By resources, I mean money.
So after struggling of trying to make everything not fall on the Carmex bottles.
Oh my gosh. Oh no.
And ruin my entire set, I moved on to the roll shot and the roll and then the zoom in on the Carmex. I've looked at all the Carmex bottles and they didn't have just solid. I looked at one of them and it actually said Carmex on it. And none of the other packs that I picked up in the store had that. And I was like, I'm gonna use that to my advantage. So I wanted to zoom into that once it rolled over. And how I did it was I thought I'd just push it, but it was easier if I just rolled it. And you can kind of see like where my hand moves away because it was just the perfect shot and I thought that I had to use it. And it stopped on the very exact moment and then it rolled back. So I thought that I'd slow it in post and then stop and zoom in on the Carmex label. This is my first time actually doing stop motion. It was more tedious than I thought it would be. I realized very early that it's kind of hard if you want to move every single thing because you got to remember where everything is. And I had to start over one time because I completely messed up my positioning on where I was placing stuff about 7 shots in, and that's 7 more times that you got to move every single piece that's moving. The funnest thing to do is actually shoot the individual Carmex tubes with their surrounded flavor. The secret here is get a bowl, this on top, and then when you pile stuff on, it'll look like it's overflowing. It looks like that, but on the bottom, you can see it's a bunch of space missing. The cherries were pretty difficult because they wouldn't stay in place. They would always constantly keep moving and the stems would fall off. I'm not buying chairs again. That's just what it boils down to. I'm not buying chairs ever again. So what I did was I taped it on the back of the stick to move the stick. That way the only thing that I would have to mask out in post is the stick. And doing this for the cherries made me realize that I should have just done it on the green screen and just dropped it in. Also with the strawberries, I should have just did the exact same thing. It would have been way less work to do, but I got to mask out a bunch of stuff in post. Yay. The mints were pretty easy. I dropped the mints behind the Carmex tube thing. I had to do that a couple of times because, well, everything started moving. With the strawberries is I actually took off my LED panel and I could stick the stick through the little socket that it had and it wouldn't move and it would just stay, and I could, raise it up and drop it down wherever I wanted it to. But the one thing that saved me throughout this entire thing was in my preparation. I created a PowerPoint. I created like a little rough draft with text to show exactly how I wanted things to flow. I did get some extra shots. You might think 15 seconds, oh yeah, you just shoot and go, but it's not the case. So now we move on to the editing. I pretty much laid everything out and I pasted exactly how I wanted it to go. I had to incorporate 3 tubes of Carmex and give them their own personality. Once I got all the pacing and everything done, I framed everything correctly, rotated everything right, and then I added like pans, zoom outs, slow zoom ins that I wanted the audience to focus in on. So for the pop-out logo, I just took a Carmex logo, tried to replicate it, found some text that was very close to the Carmex logo, and I replicated the rectangles around the Carmex logo, and I wanted to make those move, made them go small and then pop out and small again. I added a little bit of easing to the curves, that way it flowed a little bit smoother instead of just being very jolty. The strawberry VFX shot was pretty easy because the stick wasn't moving, the strawberries weren't moving, besides the strawberries that I dropped in the background. And what I did was I just masked out the strawberry tube and I got rid of the stick and I replaced it with a plain shot, and then I put the Carmex tube over the original shot and made it come closer to the camera and zoom back down like it's falling into the strawberries. And that shot was pretty easy because the strawberries weren't moving, everything was fine, and it went smoothly. Now remember what I said about those cherries. And the cherries went kind of the same way as the strawberries, but what I did was I was holding the stick that was holding the Carmex cherry flavor of Carmex, and I dropped that down into frame. And while I was masking it out in post, I found that the cherries were actually moving the entire time, so it looked a little off and weird that the mask wasn't lining up the way that I wanted it to. So then I had to go back, make it softer, add another mask to it to make it even softer so you wouldn't notice that the cherries were kind of a little bit off. The one thing about replacing something and masking over it is that you need a clean plate and you need nothing to move. You need everything to stay the exact same, because if not, then you get these little kind of warps and little imperfections that kind of throw the audience off. It's like a magic trick. If you see the person remove the dollar one time, like you'll be like, ah, and you're taking out of that world now and you don't believe anything that they do. Everything now that they do is a trick. And VFX, I wouldn't say that it's a trick, but it's something that can be related to magic. If you see it once, you're not fooled again. And that was pretty much it. That's how I shot and edited and planned this Spec Carmex commercial. My name is Cody Felix. This has been Newman Productions. Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and subscribe, or like, or comment, or don't. Bye. To stick was to stick on. My secret was to stick the Carmex on the back of a stick with some tape. That was a weird sentence.